hope I'm wrong. It's possible this so-called Nipah virus that's being talked about is warming up for the next pandemic. They are shutting airports and quarantining in India, and they're talking about, well, you can see for yourself, shutting the midterms and all the rest of it. I've never seen anything mentioned on the BBC or Sky or anything like that, but Reuters ran a story the other day about this. Fever, headache, muscle pain, vomiting, sore throat, dizziness, drowsiness, vague symptoms like COVID was. There are no viruses. This is another lie. I'm going to add links. It's coming from a bat, as you can see again, like it did with COVID, which is another lie. I'll add videos on that explain the virus deception and why they don't have any. Also links why you shouldn't wear a mask, and that the fact that the PCR test is a fraud from the guy that actually made it, who died about a year before COVID, suspiciously enough. In 2019 they did a simulation of a virus, a big pandemic preparation thing, and a few months later COVID happened. In August 2025 they did that again. They did another simulation. There was a warning went out a short while ago that somebody I know had said basically the postal service in America got a warning that they were going to have to, well, there you go, it's a hoax, it is a hoax. You did learn something in the last 6 years, didn't you? Very true. There is no COVID, there was no Nipah virus. I'm sure I'll get freedom of information requests like I did with COVID and stuff, such like. There was a warning went out to postal services, basically saying that they're going to set up checkpoints, there's going to be something coming. Also with banks, we're given the same sort of warning. The WHO, there was a treaty signed with the WHO that gives them full control over a situation like this to dictate what happens in a pandemic, which is going to be bad. The UK in 2020 passed themselves laws basically that if they deem you with the fake PCR test to be ill, they can kick your door in and forcibly inject you with whatever toxin they want. I've heard that Pfizer already has the cure. I mean, this was a few days ago, we're not really hearing. I'm hoping this is nothing, but you can see, this is Twitter obviously, it's coming from, it's just garbage. There's a strong possibility of a war going on at the same time with Iran and other places, and economic meltdown people are warning about heading our way. They passed for themselves a thing called the Dodd-Frank Act, where basically you are an uninsured creditor, your money, it's not belonging to you anymore, it belongs to the bank, and it will be bail-ins, not bail-outs, with our money, to bail out banks that are in trouble. The problem with this is if credit stops, that is where the problem lies. I'll give you an example. Credit lines, I think there's 5 credit lines to get a loaf of bread to a market and things like that. If the credit runs out, there will be no food, and the war and all these sorts of things, and it's very possible that they would turn around and say, well, if people are not prepared, if there's no food, you need to get food, you need to get their cure, which I strongly advise you not to do. I'll add the links to the videos to show you this and all other viruses are lies. He's that John Campbell. He's not a doctor. He's an auxiliary nurse, and he was pushing the jab as well. It's just garbage. Wuhan lies. That's just smoke and mirrors, all that stuff. But as you can see, it's brewing.
The creator of the PCR test, Dr. Carrie Mullis, PhD, who actually died shortly before COVID, coincidentally, says anyone can test positive for practically anything with a PCR test. If you run it long enough with a PCR, if you do it well, you can find almost anything in anybody. It doesn't tell you they're sick. It's not a diagnostic tool. It is a fraudulent thing that they used back then. And also the Supreme Court, in a court case in 2013, Pathology versus Myriad Genetics Inc. in the United States, and the Supreme Court ruled that you cannot patent human DNA as it was a product of nature. But at the end of the ruling, the Supreme Court did rule that if you were to change a human's genome by mRNA vaccines, which are currently being used, then the genome can be patented. This means that anyone who has had the vaccine is now technically patented, and something that is patented is owned and will come under the definition of transhuman. Those people who are legally identified as transhuman do not have access to human rights or any rights provided by the state. This is because they are not classed as 100% organic or human. Therefore, technically, anyone having the vaccine could no longer have access to human rights. There have been a few legal papers discussing this recently, so clarification should be soon available. You can actually look that up, but it's a massive document on www.supremecoursgov/opinions/12pdf/12-398_167D PDF.